been playing for how long now? An hour?
About an hour. Well, it's
Right.
because we only had 2 copies of it and you guys were hogging it all weekend.
Yeah.
Wait, how many days have you had the
I
cartridge?
just got it yesterday.
But I would have, like, as soon as I got it, I could not wait to play it. At first, you feel like, well, this is just Mario with like new kind of 3D kind of updated graphics.
The first 2 levels are like the first 2 levels of the original Super Mario Brothers, so
Well,
kind
they're
of
similar, but not exactly the same.
the first level is like 85% the same.
Okay, sure.
Some of the secrets are different, but yeah, it kind of tricks you into thinking, oh, this is just a remake of Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, and it's where even like to how you had to jump on a flag staff at the end of the on the flagpole at the end of the level, fireworks. You know, if you get the right score, and little things like that. But then it's like once you get to about level or the World 2 is where it really took off for me.
Actually, World 2 is pretty much it's pretty much a reprise of World 3 from Mario 3. It's got the pyramids, it's got the little hopping guys with the bricks stacked on top of them. There's a lot of similarities with the previous Mario games, especially Mario 3.
I know Mario 3 is your favorite, so I mean,
Yeah,
are there
the
more
thing.
nods to that in this, or like is
Well,
it...
it feels to me like it's just as you go through the game, it feels like a remix of all. It's like you see some Super Mario World, some Super Mario 3. Just not really Super Mario 2, I guess.
No, I've taken to calling it Super Mario Brothers 4 because it really feels like the sequel to Mario 3. I mean, Mario World kind of did its own thing where you're riding Yoshi, you could fly with the feather, and you know there were lots of different elements to the game. But New Super Mario Brothers really feels like Mario 3 a lot. Like the game feel, the way you control, there's a kind of crispness to the action that I think the later games kind of lost.
Well, you also get the suit. I already got like the little Koopa suit. I mean, I don't know if there's any other power-ups like that. I've tried to stay away from spoilers.
Power-ups are not so
Not so
impressive
much.
in this game,
Yeah, it's
actually.
just
I
less about the
use the
power-ups.
fire flower about 90% of the time.
Wow.
Which, who the hell uses the fire flower in Mario 3 or Mario 4?
But like, you know, people love Mario 3 so much because of all those wacky little costumes.
Right, yeah, that
Kinda
was-
weird.
that
Kind
was
of wish they'd
kinda
have brought that
disappointing
back
to me.
more here, but
See, that wasn't a problem for me. I just liked that, you know, if you're a Mario fan, this is like it felt like you said, it feels like a real sequel. Like all these years, you know, you've seen Mario 64 or whatever, or Mario Sunshine, but this is like a traditional 2D side-scroller, classic Mario. It controls just right. It feels precise. It has really clever worlds. It's colorful. It's awesome.
And I noticed just a little bit I played. One of the things it has that makes a Mario game, especially a 2D Mario game, what it is there's a level of play that you can achieve on these levels. Like if you're like really good, the levels are built for you to like blaze through them doing everything perfectly. And there's like special things you can do, like power-ups you can get, you know, one-ups you can get if you play the game perfectly. And it really rewards expert play, and that's a very classic Super Mario
yeah,
Brothers
and
thing.
I'm impressed that they held that up all the way through the end of the game. There's a lot of replay.
And doesn't it kind of borrow the whole Mario World idea where there's multiple exits from levels and
Yeah,
finding the exits
Yeah,
is part of the
that's
fun?
that's one of the nice touches that it feels like Mario 3, but it has kind of the sophistication of the later Mario games.
Have you guys tried the multiplayer yet, or?
No, we didn't do that today, actually. I did play the mini games on there. Did you play them? They suck.
I guess it's supposed to be more of a preview session here, Shu, than
Oh,
than
alright, well.
it sucks session.
You're coloring his opinion, Shu.
Yeah, I was really excited about this minigame. I guess not anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
They give you a ton, and I worked through them. I'm like, I gotta try them out, you know, just because I'm reviewing the game, and I gotta try
Because the
them.
minigames in Super Mario's 64 DS were pretty good.
Yeah, but
They're fun.
the problem I have with mini games and games like this is there's really no point to them. They're kind of, you know, something to
You're
kill
on the
your time
bus.
with.
You got 5
but
minutes.
No,
If you got 5 minutes, play through a level. They're fast.
Yeah. Jeremy's totally right. Like in context, they're just it's just a mini game on its own. And I felt like if you're gonna let me play this, maybe 4 players as part of a Mario Party, like there's a point to it all. You know, there's a objective. No, you're just doing a bunch of mini games. So it's just
games and WarioWare. Those are great because that's the game. You progress by playing mini games. But in games like this, it's just kind of on the side to distract you.
Let's talk about what's new in this game. Like what? So you talked about the 3 coins, and so in this game, when you collect, on each level there's 3 coins. Like some are cleverly placed, some are hard to find, some are really obvious.
You get the coins, and then when you're on the world map, which is kind of a Mario 3 style world map, you can unlock certain areas. And sometimes it's a mushroom house that has extra lives. Sometimes it's like a new. Sometimes it's an entirely new level or an alternate path to take you, give you a shortcut to the end of the stage. I mean, I think you could probably beat the game in like an hour if you took all the shortcuts.
That's very much like Super Mario World.
It is, yeah.
The control in general feels a little different, but like not bad. When you first pick it up, you're like, oh, this isn't exactly Mario, but you actually have more moves. You can like jump off walls now.
Well, it's basically his moveset from Mario 64 converted into a two-dimensional plane. So he can jump off walls, and he can do the triple jump and things like that. Yeah, the butt stomp. I'm actually not so crazy about the butt stomp. The feel for that is not as responsive as Yoshi's from Yoshi's Island.
Really? It's just simple. You just pull down on a D-pad.
I don't know. Maybe it was the system I was using, but I found that I had to like pretty much reach the peak of my jump before I could butt stomp. Whereas in other games, you can make a little hop and then butt stomp.
Jeremy has very specific things that he wants out of a butt stomp.
I'm a butt stomp connoisseur.
But there's new power-ups too. You can get really big, really small, right? Those are new.
Yeah.
But the really big one, you just basically just crash through the level and destroy everything. And all the power-ups that you break through are collected for you, and then at the end, when you power back down...
You get like one-ups, right?
Yeah, just if you crash through it, it'll save them for you. It'll queue them up, and it'll drop them down for you at the end. Or it could become Tiny Mario to get into the tiny pipes, and he floats. So you can use that, like you can combo all these things. So you could be Tiny Mario... he has extra floating powers because he's not as heavy as normal Mario.
You can also run on water. If you just run, you can skip along the surface of the water.
Oh, I totally didn't know that.
Yeah.
So like he floats, right? Because he's lighter, and then you can use that along with the wall bounce, and then you can reach other areas. So, and it's all really put together so well, just classic Mario style. Because, like, if they give you a Tiny Mario power up, you know that you can take advantage of it. You know there's something in a level it gets it. There's probably a hidden coin they can only get as little Mario. So it's really clever. And then if you could, and the controls feel just right. I think earlier you were saying, it rewards expert play, but it doesn't. I don't even think you need to be an expert because the controls are just so perfect.
Yeah.
Like you can be somewhat of a casual player and do really well. Like you don't have to be hardcore. Like I know exactly how to control this guy. It just feels right. That's why the original Mario's sold so well, because it was such an easy game to play. It's so accessible. It's so easy to get into. Even more casual players will get into it.
I think the best way to prove its sheer accessibility is the fact that there's no hand-holding whatsoever. There's not a single tutorial, not a single explanation of the game. You jump in, you play, and you just go. Games don't do that anymore.
Yeah, every game teaches you,
even
press a
Super
button
Princess
to move.
Peach, which is the most incredibly easy game ever. Like, it tells you what to do at every step. It tells you how to beat every boss. There's none of that this time. You have to figure it out on your own, but it's all really intuitive. And it's easy to grasp everything you're supposed to do. Although, again, like the little mushroom running on the water thing, like, there are secrets that you don't immediately realize, and you have to play around and experiment before you can finally say, oh, wow, and get the most out of it. I guess that's what I meant by the game rewarding expert play, is that, there's certain casual play merit to it. And you can just jump in and play. But if you really, really want to get the most out of it, if you really want to maximize your experience, there's just so much you can do and so much depth to the game. You can really jump in and experiment with it. And you can spend, I don't know how long it's going to take to get every coin in every level and unlock the 2 worlds that I haven't even seen because I have no idea how to get there. I think if I have one complaint about the game is that sometimes it feels a little too faithful to Mario, and I kind of wish there were a little more creativity on display. Like, it really, really has the classic feel, but yeah, sometimes it plays a little safe. And I realize it's kind of heretical to say this, but I kind of feel like Super Princess Peach did more creative things with the Mario concept than New Super Mario. It was,
What about the
it
argument
just
that,
kind of
that this
spun them off?
that
in
this
new
has
ways?
no real reason to be on DS? That it doesn't use any of the DS functionality at all.
Who cares?
All right, just
It's portable.
put it out
It's
there.
a good portable game. It's solid, you know.
Yeah, the DS is so innovative and all this crazy functionality. This is more of a traditional.
Koji
very-
Igarashi has said that you no longer need goofy stylus gimmicks in your games, and I'm willing to believe the man.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
All right.
I mean, it's made in a way that I think if you're a Mario purist and you're like, even if maybe you decided, you know what, I don't even like Mario 64 or Sunshine because I like the old 2D games, you're just going to love it because it's like made for the Mario faithful. You know, it's like, I play the games, I love Mario 1, 2, and 3, and World, and all those, and this is like a perfect sequel, and we've waited so long for it, and it's done really well.
Dispatch, this is Checkpoint 227. We got our very own hardcore VIPs. Please advise. Roger that. You're a little out of your jurisdiction. Where's your documentation?
What do you mean, documentation? Screw you, cowboy. We're on assignment.
Destination?
I don't think that's any of your business.
This is a Syntech-controlled sector. Everything is our business. Now, what is your destination?
South corner of fuck and you.
When Half-Life 1 came out, there was, I kept thinking that there would be more first-person shooters in that vein. Like, there would be more games with all these cool scripted scenes.
All
and,
the scripted events, that was like the big buzzword after it came out.
Right, because there weren't
Yeah.
any other FPSs that were doing that. It was always grab the yellow key, go through the yellow door, that sort of thing.
Right. It was like a cutscene. It was like stop gameplay, now cutscene.
It wasn't until like Medal of Honor Allied Assault that we started to see more of that stuff in FPSs on PC.
Right.
The interesting thing about Sin Episodes Emergence is that it actually feels a lot like Half-Life 2.
You'll need to get past the lighthouse and through the power plant to get to the lower entrance. Once inside, though, you'll need a... You hear that? Martin, that bastard set us up. Go, Blade. I'll find my own way out.
Sure, the characters are different, the world is different, the art direction is maybe not quite as good, the narrative is like much more alpha male than maybe Half-Life 2 is.
Oh, Blade. You think I'm such a naughty, naughty girl. Such a microcosmic view.
But at the same time, the way that the game is put together, the way the narrative is told, is very much like Half-Life 2. The main antagonist is this woman called Alexis, and she runs this Syntech corporation, which is kind of like, like the corporation.
Right.
It does make sense. It's like they take over the whole city, they run the police force and all that sort of thing. At the beginning of the game, Alexis and this other guy, Radek, have like basically injected you with something, so you're starting in a bed after having just been injected by this mystery goo.
Right.
And you have this character who runs around with you the whole time, and she breaks you out of there.
And so the story is being told basically like it's always going on. That woman is talking to you as you're driving around and stuff.
Yeah, like you'll get, you're communicating via headset, and she'll give you little messages, and then you've also got this other guy, JC, who was also in the first game, who's like your tech specialist. You'll have like force fields that need to go down, so he has to hack them for you. You like set a little data spike on like a terminal, and then he does this hacking in the background, and like you have to fend off guys that are coming at you. A lot of things to interact with, the same way that the original Sin had a lot of those type of things. Like you go up to a public telephone booth and like type in a number. Like if you see a billboard that says like United Bank, like here's the phone number for you. Just type it in and you'll get like an answering machine for it.
Thank you for calling Freeport City Bank. Are you looking to buy a new car?
That stuff just makes the game more fun to play because it makes the world feel like there's actually something going on there.
Right.
It's not just a bunch of like geometry.
Plus, it's like a little game within a game because you're like, oh, I wonder if I can like screw around with that. Like everybody's dead or everything's cleared out, and you're just like, okay, what can I screw around with? Like, let's screw around with the payphone.
In the environments, there'll be a lot of like things you can use, like exploding like tanks and different things that you can like carry around with you, and like you'll see a bunch of enemies coming, so you go back into the last room, grab like a tank, shoot it, and then it like flies off forward and takes the guys out.
Oh, nice.
You know, there's like there's lots of little clever things, like the way that they handle the health regeneration system. It's kind of like Half-Life, where there's these mounted health units on the walls where you use them and your health increases.
Right.
But they have instead of just being like a solo unit,
Yeah.
they like house these canisters that have the gas inside that's supposed to be giving you health back.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll find ones that are full. Sometimes you'll find ones that are like mostly empty.
Right.
And sometimes you'll find ones that are completely empty and don't even have a canister inside. So you'll search around the environment, open up lockers and stuff, and find like another canister.
Right.
You can either take that back to the unit, which is the best way to use it because you can get the most health from it back if you actually get it back into the thing on the wall.
Yeah.
But you can also shoot it, and it'll explode, and basically a gas cloud erupts.
Oh,
That's
nice.
like
So
a
you just
healing
jump
cloud.
in and like, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
so you just like stand in there and you can like fend off guys while you're actually regenerating your health.
Oh, that's pretty cool. One of the things that I'd heard about that they touted that sounded really cool was like how the AI adapts to you, like your play style, like so, and you're pretty good.
So I started and everything felt really easy. I was just like kind of blowing through it, and once I got to I don't know how long it is because I obviously didn't finish it yesterday.
Right.
But when I was in about 3 hours, I was fighting through the Syntech Corporation building, and it gets really, really, really ridiculously hard, or it got really, really ridiculously hard. So I was like, I don't know, was I playing too well? Did it adapt too much? And like I'm getting screwed now. It got to a point where they'd throw these guys with these chain guns at me. They're totally ridiculously strong, and it was just like really hard to fend them off. I almost always had like around 20 health, and I basically have to quick save, try something, see if it would work, get killed, try again,
Right.
and you know, so that's cool, but it was really hard.
Yeah.
And also it does like really, really extensive stat tracking. I know we've seen a little bit of it in screenshots before, but it's really incredible. Like you can see the number of the bullets you fired, the number of times you jumped, like the way that the AI is adjusting to you, and there's these cool little graphs and stuff.
Oh wow.
What's the world come to?
My main problem with the game that I had yesterday was that over the course of the 3 hours that I was playing, I only really found 3 weapons. You know, I hate to talk about the number of weapons in a game, because
Right.
really does that really matter? Not usually. But all I had was a pistol, shotgun, and like an assault rifle submachine gun thing,
Right.
which are like pretty standard FPS weapons. They all have secondary fires which do more interesting things. The pistol shoots like almost like a railgun shot out of it that's stronger, and there's the shotgun has kind of like a burst bomb attack, and the assault rifle has like a standard grenade launcher that it has. But I that kind of bummed me out because I was hoping for the weapons to be a little bit more unique.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll do like the first episode is like the first part of a first-person shooter where you do only get like the pistol and the shotgun and maybe the assault rifle, and then it's like the middle that you get the grenade launcher, and then you go up that step ladder that you usually go up.
I wonder if that's gonna like for me. If I was doing it, I would not do it that way, and I would have like give people the 3 like base weapons, your shotgun, assault rifle, pistol thing.
Right.
And you should have those standard, or get them within the first 30 minutes of play.
Right.
And then have a few weapons that were specific to that that episode. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. Graphically, it looks, pretty much on par with what you'd expect from Half-Life 2. I would say the texture work is not quite as good, especially in some of the office buildings. It gets kind of like you really feel like you're seeing the same wall texture over and over again. It feels kind of old school in that way. But otherwise, I mean, for the most part, it's a pretty good looking game. Not the best. Not it doesn't look like Unreal 3 or anything like that. I went to Valve yesterday to play this game. I played for, like I said, about 3.5 hours. Had a really good time playing it, and I'm not bummed out that I pre-ordered it, like I've paid for it,
Right,
right?
right.
I'm going to be glad to get back into the game and play it
And play
all
it
the way
again.
through.
Yeah,
play
yeah.
it again. And you know, as long as the next few episodes maintain the level of quality that's in the first one.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not the best FPS ever or anything like that. It's got issues, but it's still fun to play. And for $17 to $20, whatever the price is, like, you know, it's just, I think it's a cool little FPS fix to get.
Yeah.
I don't know what she sees when you play them. To be honest, I don't really give a shit. You see, one day, you and I, we're gonna finish things.
Yeah, Mother 3 just came out in Japan, and it's actually sold pretty well over there. There's a lot of enthusiasm for the game because the Japanese have always been big fans of the Mother series ever since the NES days, and it has its following here in the States too. For instance, the people at Starman.net, the premier Earthbound fan site, have put together this book. This was actually a couple of years ago when Earthbound and its prequel were published on Game Boy Advance in Japan. And I believe that they put this together for EGM and several other magazines and sent out this huge book of fan art and music, and I don't know, it's like fan fiction and comics. It's kind of an impressive effort, and I think the idea was that they'd send it to magazines, and the magazines would be so impressed by their loyalty that they would encourage Nintendo to publish the game in the U.S., which actually didn't happen. But
as you can see,
it is nice that there's this community out there, and I know Nintendo is aware of it. The question is whether or not they think that anyone outside of that group would actually buy Earthbound 2 Mother 3 if they brought it to the US.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Earthbound was probably like my number 2 favorite Super Nintendo game, honestly, but it's like I never really got into it as much as, the people I've seen elsewhere on the internet. It's just like...
I think you have to have a certain degree of bloodlust. So how far have you played into Mother 3 so far, Ryan?
Oh gosh, only about a couple hours really.
So you haven't made it to where the monkey fights the dung beetles?
No, unfortunately, not made it to the monkey yet.
That's where I am right now, and it's kind of inspiring.
Yeah, I know monkeys are a key part of the Earthbound series, I think. So.
Yeah, I think so, and probably dung beetles too.
Yeah.
I think the best part of Mother 3 is the battle system, which I wasn't really expecting much from because, Mother and Earthbound were both just like Dragon Warrior, and it wasn't anything exciting. It had the rolling counters, but that was about it. But the music element in the battle system really, it adds an extra, an element of interactivity.
It's still not perfect though. I mean, it's still like there's not enough of a guide for you really. Like there could be like a little line or something, like a rhythm.
Well, actually, one of the characters that you may not have gotten to, he has a special ability to let you change the sound of the music so that it amplifies the beat and drops the harmony back, or the melody. So it's really easy that you can just listen to the rhythm. But I also find that if you just like bop your head like a retard, then it works really well. So yeah, so here I'm in a battle, so I'll just kind of demonstrate. Okay, so that was 11 hits. Yeah. So it was kind of worth looking like an idiot, I think.
Yeah, well, I'd say what really makes Mother different than anything is just story, really, is that it's so different, and yet it's so more involved than anything else, because they have like the modern day aspects from the first couple ones, and that was really like such a huge change from at the time.
It was pretty much set in a slightly skewed version of the modern world, kind of a Japanese impression of what America is like.
Yeah.
So it kind of was a surreal fantasy in that way.
And the stories dealt so much with the youth, you know, and just like growing up in a way. And now it's like in Mother 3, you know, you have adults and youth as, you know, the characters, and so they're going through their own dramas now.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. The story for Mother 3 kind of surprised me because it's a lot more of a traditional RPG story in that it's kind of linear, it's kind of chapter based. There are more adults, but my understanding is that later in the game, ultimately the kids are the main characters.
I was really impressed with the animation, honestly. The animation's pretty good compared to like the older games, because now it's like they used to look just like, you know, regular 16-bit RPGs, and now they look more like a 32-bit
Yeah,
RPG.
I think that's something you can't really tell from just plain screenshots. Is that despite the simple, almost 8-bit look of the graphics, it's really well animated, and I think that's Brownie Brown, the developer of the game. They did Sword of Mana and Magical Vacation and a few other really nice-looking GBA games, and they have a real knack for animation with sprites. And when you see Earthbound in motion, especially on like a DS Lite where the colors are just super vivid and beautiful, it's a really great-looking game, and the music is really good too, especially considering it's, you know, a GBA game. The music style is different. There's more of a driving beat to the music than in the previous games because, you know, it has to have the beat element to it. Although actually some of the trickier battles that you get into have music with no clear beat, so that it's really hard to tell what the timing is on those. And I think that's actually part of the challenge for those battles.
Just too bad, because I was getting thrown off early on already. So.
Nintendo hasn't actually announced it for the US yet, but they haven't really released news of their GBA lineup for this year. And I know that Nintendo's most recent acquisition on the localization side is a big Earthbound fan, so I can only imagine that he's, you know, stumping for it back at Nintendo headquarters in the treehouse. I think if Mother 3 is not at Nintendo's E3 booth, I will be very shocked. I can't imagine it not coming to the US. You don't want to mess with the Starman.net people. They're a posse.
Desire to be like a science teacher?
I guess that's kind of what I do in a sense, you know. But yeah, I enjoy science, and I enjoy trying to find ways to make it more accessible to people, make it more interesting. Because I mean, the core of most science is actually very interesting stuff. It's just that it's armored with this language and stuff, you know, that keeps most people, you know, out of it. You know, and you know, in general, most subjects are like that. They kind of come up, even in university settings, they wall off geology from biology, from chemistry, from physics. When in fact, there are a lot of really interesting stuff between the different subjects. You know, and each field has its own kind of language. Just we use things like that to start. You know, we have other tools that can kind of add water more incrementally. Whoa, that's way too fast. And then we have, you know, tools for modifying the surface. So you basically can kind of sculpt whatever you want using the UFO. So this is actually a raised land tool.
So you're raising the land right there.
Yeah. And now we're getting an atmosphere starting to form as the water's evaporating out. But this one's going to be kind of hot. But so I could, you know, kind of build a colony there eventually once I terraform it. You know, I'd want to start bringing in animals and things. Here's a world that's already got wildlife living on it, but no civilization. We have no imposter either, so the graphics aren't correct there. Some of the worlds are going to be realistic.
Is this one that's been generated or one that you went and hand?
This is one that was generated.
Okay.
So we have a wide variety of algorithms that will generate very different looking planets. You know, some very realistic, some a bit more kind of fantastic, like this one.
So what will you like be doing on each of these planets? What's the gameplay at that point?
It depends on what level the planet's at. If it's a wild planet like this, I might be using it to collect specimens, that I can use to then populate other planets, or even trade with alien races. I might be playing the Uplift game, where I can actually use a monolith to make some of these guys intelligent eventually.
Do you actually have a monolith that you drop down?
Yeah. So I can abduct this guy, and now he'll go in my cargo bay, and I can use him, for breed stock in another world, or plants or whatever. So one of the special things that we can in fact get is the monolith, that we can use to then. But right now it's a little too big. Let's see if it still works. But you basically use that with a certain species and then come back, many hours later and see what civilization they built. So when I come back, it'll basically make one of the species on this planet intelligent. And then when I come back to this planet, there'll be cities and vehicles and all this that species is built. And so at that point, they'll probably be worshiping me too. So if I encounter like a tribal planet, I can actually get them to worship me, by doing things that kind of amaze them. And which has, impacts later in the game. If these guys worship me, then they're like kind of a very strong colony. But this is just my home system. If I pull back to the interstellar, so this is interstellar space. So the galaxy is actually quite large. I mean, this is several hundred stars in this region, but it's a pretty small region of the entire galaxy. I think the idea that you've got this, basically a little toy universe inside of your computer is vastly appealing to me. There's an entire universe there, possibilities to explore, stories to tell, games to play.
One of my favorite things in The Sims was to just let it run all night and just see what happened when I woke up in the morning.
Yeah.
And I imagine something like
now you've got a million other people doing it for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can visit a world and then come back, many hours later and see what sort of civilization they've developed.
Yeah, tell us more, maybe explain a little bit more about the, being able to upload and download content from other players.
Well, that happens automatically. So what's happening is the game is building a model of each player, their aesthetic, their playstyle, their skill levels, and based upon that, deciding what content to populate your world with. And it depends on what level of the game you're at. So if you're at the creature level, it's populating, your game with other creatures that other players have made. If you're at the, let's say, the city or civilization level, it's populating your world with other cities, vehicles, buildings that other players have made. To give you good competitors.
What about taking sport to be a little bit more aggressively, say, multiplayer, so that people could actually does that appeal to you at all, simultaneous interaction?
I think in some place we might go. I feel like it's a territory that's been explored by so many people, and I'm much more interested in the asynchronous kind of massively single-player thing that we're doing with sport, just because it's something I've never seen before. And we're trying to get the best aspects of multiplayer, which is the collaborative, everybody building this huge world together, without all the downsides, that we all have to be on the same timeline and that everybody has to be nerfed and nobody can be the hero. I really want to be the hero in this universe and be able to build my galactic federation and conquer all that would oppose me. And at the same time, I don't want to be coming to all these planets, that are basically offline because the player's not online, and so 95% of the planets will be closed, So multiplayer games have a lot of inherent limitations that I'm interested in exploring a way to get the benefit without the limitations. In some sense, it's about stepping back and getting a sense of, all the different things the universe is made of at all the different scales. And so, even though we treat it very playfully, the rough idea that, you have planets and that they can form life with the right conditions and that life kind of evolves and can become intelligent. And the kind of very rough thing about both the entire, history of life and the possible future of life is a perspective that we very rarely get. We're usually stuck at one little moment in time. And so it's not just scales of space, but it's also scales of time. And stepping way back and saying, what does life potentially mean in regards to the overall universe?